I like movies with weird gimmicks. I couldn't think of a better intro, so that's what you're getting. Before we get into my little list I've compiled here, I just want to set some ground rules first. One, I'm talking about movies with weird gimmicks, not weird premises. I know that might sound like splitting hairs, but I think there's a difference. If I had to put it into words, I would probably say that gimmick has more to do with like the technical aspects of filmmaking than it does with the premise. If it's just about something a little out there, I don't really think that counts. Two, no experimental films. The whole list could be filled with just experimental films. That's kind of the point of experimental movies. And I feel like that whole topic should be its own video. Three, no incredibly popular films on the list. I feel like if you click on a video called Movies with Weird Gimmicks, it's presumably because you want to hear about something you never heard of before, not for someone to tell you.
Memento tells its story backwards.
So I just want to spend my time talking about movies you might not have heard of before, instead of just reiterating the obvious. Four, this is a long list that is just admin before the actual list, but number four, no weird gimmicks that were once weird but now normalized. I think the prime example of this is the Blair Witch Project. In 1999, that was absolutely a weird ass gimmick movie. But obviously calling it a gimmick movie now is ridiculous. I think that's the most obvious one, but I think there are some other gimmicks that have become so overdone that I don't really think they're that weird anymore. Like, I think most people are familiar with the concept of a one-take movie, and these are weird gimmick movies, but I just don't want to fill this already crowded long list with a bunch of movies that have the same gimmick. And five, this should be obvious, but I'm gonna miss things. Like, I'm not a movie deity here as much as I'd like to be. So that's enough admin. Let's get to the list. Actually, no, let's not get to the list. I will make you wait. First is a subcategory of the list called Haven't Seen, But I Want to Talk About. Now you may be thinking, why would you talk about movies you haven't seen? That's weird, and it is. But I think you'll see why when I start talking about the movies. The first entry is The Zodiac Killer. And the reason I didn't want to watch this one is because it's a front. The gimmick of this movie is that this was only made as a ploy to catch the then still active Zodiac Killer. You see, they would hand out these little pamphlets before the movie started that would ask questions about the Zodiac Killer. Like, I think the Zodiac Killer kills because his pee-pee hurt. And then what they would do at the premiere is take all these pamphlets written by the audience and cross-check the handwriting to see if it matched the Zodiac Killer letters. I think it's needless to say that this plan failed. They did not catch the Zodiac Killer this way, and apparently they made a shit movie. Like, everyone who's actually seen it seems to hate it, and I don't blame them because, again, the movie's just a front. It was not made to make a good movie. Next up is actually a series of movies, and it's a series of movies that I actually want to see. So it's a little weird that it's on this portion of the list, right? Well, the reason is it's the 7-Up documentary series. What this is a long time ago, a group of documentarians decided to make a documentary about a group of 7-year-olds, and it was called 7-Up. And then 7 years later, they returned to the same group of children that they interviewed in the first movie and interviewed them again. And it was called 14-Up. No, just kidding. It was called 7+7 for some fucking reason. Even though all the other movies in this series maintain the same titling convention, they fucked it up on the second one for some reason. I kind of spoiled the idea of the series there, but I just had to rant. This is such a terrible title. I fucking hate that title. But yes, the gimmick of this series is that each new movie is interviewing the same set of kids that they originally interviewed at 7 years old every 7 years. The last one they made was 63 Up in 2019. I have a feeling that this next one, 70 Up, is going to be really fucking depressing, but we probably should get a 70 Up in 2026. So that sounds really interesting. Why did I not watch them? The short answer is it's 9 movies. Like, they are 9 feature-length documentaries. I do want to watch them, but that is kind of too much to watch and talk about in what is, let's be honest, already a video that's too long. And finally, on this haven't seen but want to talk about list is not a movie. It's not even a series of movies. It is an entire filmography of movies. It is every single movie made by William Castle. I really don't want to cram in a discussion on William Castle in what is already a crowded video. I know I've said this like 3 times already, and at this point my back burner of videos to work on is longer than my fucking watch list. But I think William Castle should get his own video. But I know that's a bit of a cop-out, so here's just a brief rundown of some of the things this guy did. In House on Haunted Hill, he patented the new technology, Emergo, or Emergo, in which some theaters would fly a plastic skeleton over the crowd. And then for his next film, The Tingler, he introduced Percepto. I love fucking 1950s naming conventions. You just stick an O at the end and it's a new thing. And basically he would install these like buzzers that would go off under your seat, and famously near the end of the movie, the projector, like the film would look like it died out, and like the shadow of the Tingler would come on the screen, and it's like, oh no everyone, the Tingler is out. And then the buzzers would go off on unsuspecting moviegoers, and they'd be like, oh shit, the Tingler, the tingle load all over me. And the one I was most familiar with, the one that introduced me to William Castle's whole shtick, Mr. Sardonicus. The gimmick for this one was the punishment pole. I'm shocked he didn't call it the Punishmento Polo. And what would happen is, this whole movie is about this guy, Mr. Sardonicus, who sucks. Everyone hates him. And basically at the end, William Castle himself would appear on screen, and he would render the punishment pole. And he'd basically be like, thumbs up if he should live, and thumbs down if he should die. And he'd sit there pantomiming like it's Dora the Explorer.
The lady in the 9th row, a little higher. The little boy in the back, will you please sit down so I can count the cards behind you? That young couple on the left, is that 1 vote or 2 that you're casting? 2 votes? Thank you.
It's fucking hilarious. And the funniest thing is, it was complete bullshit. Like, there was no alternate ending. There was only one ending to the movie. It's Mr. Sardonicus dies. Could you imagine if you went with your friends and you were the only ones in the theater and you all were like, yeah, this guy should live. And then he's just like, well, the votes say we gotta kill him.
No mercy. So be it. You have given the verdict. You have made the decision, and the majority of you have sentenced Mr. Sardonicus to further punishment. Mr. Projectionist, let the sentence be carried out.
So that is just 3 of William Castle's movies. And he had so many, countless gimmicks. I didn't even talk about the 13 Ghosts gimmick, but again, this video is already too long. So yeah, William Castle is his own entry. And with that, we get on to the list proper. I have ordered it from most like a normal movie, and then as we go along, we're gonna get to weird experimental shit. So strap in. Originally in this video, I was gonna have a segment called Whole Filmography is Weird, where I would talk about William Castle and some other directors who constantly do weird gimmick movies. And one of the directors I was going to talk about there was Steven Soderbergh. Like earlier, I talked about weird gimmicks that were weird at the time but normal now. His movie Bubble had the gimmick that it released in theaters and online in the same day in 2005. And I love that movie. I easily could have talked about that. But what I want to talk about is his most recent movie, In fact, it's so recent it might still be out in theaters where you live. It's Presence. This is a standard haunting ghost story that is shot entirely from the POV of the ghost. And I love this movie. It's a little controversial, and I think that's mainly because of the bad marketing. It kind of portrays this as a standard like Paranormal Activity, thrill a minute, scare a minute type movie, when it's really not. It's more of a interpersonal drama movie with a slight supernatural element. Oftentimes during the movie you forget that you're watching the POV of a character. Like, you're just watching and you're going into normal movie mode, and then you remember, oh no, the camera is a character, and what the camera fixates on isn't just, oh, this is what the director wants me, the audience, to focus on. It is what this character is focusing on. It's really neat. My only problem with the movie is at the end it gets a little more just straightforwardly conventional. Like, there's a plot twist and everything's resolved really cleanly, and it's good from like a script perspective, but I don't know, I just wish I enjoyed the whole first part of the movie because it was so weird and out there. I wish it did something a little bit nonconformist for the ending instead of a very crowd-pleasing ending, I guess. I don't think it pleased any crowds. I think most people aren't liking this movie. But I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the melodrama stuff. I thought it was really well handled. And, you know, like all good ghost stories, I think it has something to say about grief. I'm kind of being a little vague because this movie's still out. And also, I don't want to give spoilers for any of these movies. As much as I can avoid it. See Presence if it's still in a theater near you. Next is Clue the movie. Now, I hear some alarm bells going off in your heads going, should this not have been disqualified because of that rule? And to that I say, fuck you, it's my list. I love Clue the movie, and I will take any excuse to talk about it. There are 3 different endings, and what they would do is they would send out the 3 different endings to various theaters so that people would, when talking about the movie, think that the movie had different endings. And so there would be uncertainty with who did it. It's a really clever gimmick, but honestly, I think the home video release is the better version of the movie because it plays each of the 3 endings back to back to back. And that version is so much funnier. They reuse a lot of the dialogue from ending to ending, which when watched in sequential order creates running gags that last through all 3 endings. If you have not seen this movie, please do. It's hilarious from start to finish.
Da-da-da-da-da. I am your singing telegram.
And the next movie is Spy Kids 4D All the Time in the World. I'm not even gonna be showy for this one. This movie just sucks. This movie just sucks ass. It sucks doo-doo. Or should I say it smells like doo-doo, because the gimmick for this movie is that it was in 4D. 4D. And what that meant was when you went to the movie and got your 3D glasses, they would also give you a sniff card. And it was this little card at certain points in the movie. A number would appear on the screen, and what you would do is you take your little scratch and sniff and scratch off the corresponding number. And that was it. Like, that was the gimmick. Like, I shit you not, it's just like a character smells a bunch of flowers and it's like, scratch off number 4. Okay. It smells like flowers. And it was so stupid, and it took you out of the movie. At certain points in the movie, it's just like, okay, look down in this dark ass theater, by the way. Try to like, what number is it? Okay, shit. And then you smell it and you go, okay, yeah. And then you go back to the movie. And honestly, I feel like this movie was like a weird Milgram experiment or something. Like, it was some kind of experiment with conformity and people doing what they're told. Because at a certain point in the movie, this mom character is like, oh, I think my baby just shit himself. And then she sniffs the baby's shitty diaper and is like, oh, P.U. And then the movie's like, okay, scratch off number 6 to smell what the shitty diaper smells like. And we all did it. oh god, it smells like a shitty diaper. Like, I don't know what the fuck this whole thing was. The Guilty is a movie about a 911 dispatcher, the Swedish equivalent of that, helping a woman who calls him who is in danger. And the entire movie is just this call. There's also a movie called Lock that does a similar thing, but I don't really like that movie. I thought it was pretty mid, to be honest, but The Guilty I really love. It's kind of hard to get into why I like this movie without going into spoilers, because what I like about it is the characters and the arcs that they go on, particularly the main character. I have not seen the Netflix English language remake because it's a Netflix English language remake. Next is Run, Lola, Run. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. The gimmick for this movie is that, I kind of got to go into the premise here. It's about this woman who gets a call from her boyfriend who tells her that he lost this bag of money he was supposed to deliver to this drug dealer guy. And he lost the money on the train, and if he does not get the bag or find enough money to replace the money in the bag within 20 minutes, he is going to die. And so the gimmick of the movie is it shows these next 20 minutes of Lola trying to get this money to save her boyfriend's life from 3 different alternate universes, I guess you could conceptualize it as. It basically shows 3 different possible ways that this 20 minutes could go. And the movie is pretty much about like chaos theory and just how much of our lives boil down to pure coincidence. In one possibility, there's this dog that is in her apartment building and she just runs past it. And then when she reaches her father's place, which is who she's going to get help with the money, she interrupts this conversation between the dad and his mistress. But in the second possible timeline, the guy holding the dog trips her and she is running now with a limp. And so that conversation between the dad and the mistress is now uninterrupted. And the result of that conversation now affects the dad's mood, and he does something different now. It's very simple storytelling, but it is so well done. It is a very fun movie. It's only like 80 minutes long, and it is dripping with style. Some people might not like the very 90s editing and soundtrack here, but I love it. It feels very, very much it. I love the characters. They're not like 3-dimensional, but you get them and they feel human. Yeah, I don't want to harp too much on it, especially if I don't want to go into spoilers, but please watch Run, Lola, Run. I probably will do a whole video about this eventually because I just love it so much. Next is Bird People. How the fuck do I talk about this movie without spoiling it? So the gimmick of this movie, there's a couple things that you could say are the gimmick of this movie, but I think the way I would put the gimmick of this movie is you don't know what the movie is getting at until the final scene. Now, when I say you don't understand what it's getting at, I don't mean you're confused at like what is happening in the plot. It's all very straightforward. It's not a confusing plot. It's just that, you know, in most movies, you assume, you know, there's going to be a point to all of this. And a lot of the times in the movie, I was watching it and I was really engaged. You know, it's a really good movie if that hasn't been made clear already. There were many times when I was watching this movie and I'm like, but where is this going? The general plot is it showcases the lives of an American tourist and a French woman who works at the hotel that he happens to be staying at. That's really all I can give you without spoiling it. It goes in some very weird directions, but I really love this movie because, for one, it has a very specific identity. I can honestly say I've never seen a movie like this, and I think that's always a plus. And also, the way the final scene ties everything together thematically is so beautiful, and just, it's so satisfying to see these past like hour 45 minutes just pieced together so effortlessly. I really love this movie. I highly recommend it. It's a bit slow it might be a little too slow for most people, but if you like slow movies and slow burns, I highly recommend this one. Next is Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. It's about a soldier coming home from war. He's going to be celebrated in the halftime show at this football game because he saved someone's life in duty. This movie was shot in 120 frames per second to simulate PTSD. It's meant to amplify the horror of these war scenes and make them feel more real in a horrifying way. And there are also lots of other little stylistic gimmicks. Like there's this one great scene where the press are asking these soldiers to explain what they do. And it shows you both what the real answer is and what the press answer is.
Are we making a difference over there?
Absolutely, sir. America's out there producing dozens of suicidally pissed off insurgents every day.
Are we making a difference over there?
I think we are, yes.
It's a really interesting movie, and I think it's good, but ultimately, I think the 120 frames a second gimmick kind of harms it because it makes the movie feel hyper real, which sounds like a good thing, and in some cases it is. But a lot of this movie is supposed to be filmed at a sports stadium, filled with people. And so when you have these sets that look like they're on Saturday Night Live, and when you have these unconvincing extras all around the place, it stops feeling like this is a hyper-real, dramatic movie, and starts feeling like this is a bunch of people play acting for the camera. And it especially gets shit at the end where they have Beyonce, but Beyonce always has the back of her head facing the camera. It's literally like something out of Scooby-Doo. Like, it's actually terrible. There are some interesting scenes and ideas and characters here, but I don't know, it's a little too flawed for me to call it a masterpiece. Next is Hardcore Henry. I guess I should probably put some kind of warning for this next movie because it probably gives people motion sickness. It probably definitely gives people motion sickness. So if you get motion sickness, maybe skip this one. A while back, when I was like 15, I made a video reacting to the trailer of Hardcore Henry that was mostly just me yelling.
And then you see a huge fucking font, his future is complicated. And you're like, oh shit, why is it complicated?
But honestly, yeah, that's what this movie is. The gimmick of this movie is that it is an action movie shot entirely in POV shots. This movie's great. I fucking love it. It's so stupid. Not everyone likes this movie, and I totally get why. But the reasons they don't like it are the exact reasons that I like it. It has no story, there's no characters, and no plot. It's just mindless action. And that's exactly why I like it. Because so many action movies try to have good characters, good story, good stuff like that. And it's just the most boring, phoned-in shit you can imagine. No one cares. Everyone's just here to see the violence anyway. So don't pretend. Don't have this facade that, oh, this is classy. And I like this movie for shunning that. It's just a dumb action movie. There's fight scenes, there's gore, and it's content with being what it is. And that's not even to say it's like completely devoid of value. The stunt work in this movie is insane.
You're half machine, half pussy.
And also it has a fight scene set to Don't Stop Me Now, so it's like one of the best movies ever made.
I found you, motherfucker. Oh, God.
Next is another movie that I feel hesitant to talk about because I don't want to spoil it. It is One Cut of the Dead. If my recommendation and just saying it's really good, you should watch it, is enough, by all means go check it out. But if it's not enough, I'll explain enough so that you get it, but I won't go into details. The first half of this movie is a one-take zombie movie. It is about this group of filmmakers who are making this movie when suddenly zombies attack. And then about 40 minutes in, credits start rolling. And you're like, wait a minute, the movie's not even halfway over yet. What? And then suddenly the movie cuts, and now it is about the director of the movie you just saw trying to make the movie you just saw. It's a genuinely beautiful love letter to making movies. It just brings a smile to my face. It's incredible. Just watch it. I almost considered including this in movies too popular to talk about, but
I implore you to reconsider.
I just want to talk about Kung Pao Enter the Fist. If you don't know, basically what this movie is they took this old, forgotten martial arts movie and inserting Steve Odekirk into it and making it a silly, dumb comedy that is kind of a parody of martial arts movies, but mostly just silly.
Hey, who's he? I don't know.
It's fucking hilarious. What do you want me to say? If you've never heard of this movie before, you've probably heard some clips from it. But I'm not really surprised that this movie is popular on the internet because a lot of it is internet humor.
I remember a long time ago when a good friend of mine told me there would be a chosen one.
There will be a chosen one.
So yeah, incredible comedy. I don't want this to delve into this joke's funny, this joke's funny, this joke's funny, though. I'm just gonna leave it at that. You should watch it. Actually, I won't leave it at that because... Actually, I will leave it at that because next is Goodbye Dragon Inn. This one doesn't even feel like a movie at points. The gimmick of this film is that it is about an old movie theater and its last showing of its last movie. So the whole movie is set in this theater and it is about the people watching this movie. This movie is fucking slow. It is hard to even put into words how slow this movie is. There are shots that go on for minutes at a time and not much happens in them. I could totally see some people watching this movie and thinking it's pure torture. But I kind of like the slowness of it. It feels very meditative. And I mean that literally. You know, the whole thing with meditation is you let thoughts pass without judgment. And I think that's what the movie is going for. Like, you don't film shit this slow paced, shots like this, and expect no one to have their mind wander at all. I think the point is for your mind to wander and think about what the movie's trying to say, how it's making you feel. And it was very comforting because there was no pressure to pay attention at all moments. If you get distracted by something or your mind goes in a different direction, there's no pressure because the movie, I think, is pretty okay with you doing that. And also, it's only 80 minutes long, so it's not like 2 hours or something. And also, I just think the movie nails the atmosphere of this old, decrepit, run-down theater. Although they did use that stock door open sound at one point, which is like my one mark against the movie. Don't use that. Not in your otherworldly art house slow cinema movie. Come on, dude, just get a new door open sound effect. So next is a movie called Timecode, and this movie consists of 4 one-take shots, all shown and filmed simultaneously. Each one is placed in its own quadrant on the screen. It sounds like a total clusterfuck, but the movie does a good job at directing your attention, because what it'll do is at certain points it'll fade out the audio from all but one of the quadrants, effectively telling you to look at this one. This is the important thing you should be looking at right now, which is good. It's not, you know, it's not too overwhelming or anything. Like the last film, this one is very uncinematic in a good way, and I really enjoy that they take advantage of the gimmick, telling a story that is made better by telling it in this way. For example, one of the quadrants shows this woman spying on her girlfriend, and then on the other quadrant you can see the girlfriend cheating on her, and it's just, it elevates the story because we can see both her reaction and the actual events at the same time. And there are multiple things like that throughout the film. And that's not even going into the fact that this must have been a pain in the ass to coordinate, and also the great care that must have been taken to avoid the camera showing up in any of the other shots. There are scenes where two cameras are sort of looking at the same thing, and you never see a camera in frame as far as I could tell. And that must have taken a lot of fucking planning. Ultimately, I like this movie because I think it gets at the heart of something that I really feel. You know, everyone has their own story, and how easy it can be to forget that in the chaos of day-to-day life. I think the movie really demonstrates that beautifully. And it's not a perfect movie. It's not like one of my favorites or anything, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad I watched it. And last but not least is the least cinematic, least like a movie, the weirdest gimmick movie I could find, WNUF Halloween Special. This maybe isn't the weirdest because a couple other movies have done this gimmick. Ghost Watch is a similar gimmick. They got actual news broadcasters to do a special report on like supernatural goings on, and of course everything goes wrong, right? Just last year you had Late Night with the Devil, which is a similar thing. It's a talk show where they do an interview with some Satanist, and then everything starts going wrong. But for this video, I specifically chose WNUF Halloween Special. So this is similar. It's supposed to be about a news broadcast that is doing some investigation into the paranormal when everything goes wrong. But on top of that gimmick, there's another gimmick that the movie you're watching is a VHS tape recorded version of the broadcast. It has the vibe of you found a bunch of old tapes and you just hit play and you're watching what's on the tape. What I really love about this movie is how authentic it is. You know, the cuts, the awkward dialogue between the newscasters, it is all so accurate.
Deborah? Wow. That certainly is a terrifying forecast, Carl.
And it couldn't be more appropriate for the scariest night of the year. Thunder, lightning. You know...
You think I care about this shit? Ask me if I care about this shit, because I don't give a shit.
And the movie got so many laughs from me because it is so accurate to like how actual news broadcasts go.
Sir, tell me, do you believe in ghosts?
No, but I know who to call if there are.
Is that right? Yeah, and who would that be?
Ghostbusters.
Oh, very funny. Okay.
And that's not even mentioning some of the hilarious fake commercials that are interspersed throughout the movie.
10 years into deep space, Captain Russell Hawk pilots his Archer as he leads his laser brigade into battle to save the galaxy. The mysterious Kalfas have started depleting the timonium mines of Getka 7. Are things fine in the Elswick quadrant? Or did Chancellor Nolan discover the Freeman uprising?
It is a really fun time, and it's a really weird gimmick. Thank you all for watching this too long video. Let me know if you enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe for more weird videos like this. I want to do more videos like this that are about a certain topic. I think that could be interesting. I probably shouldn't say I want to make videos about it, because half this video was me saying, I'll make a full video about that one day.